Hey Chris, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Big
I'm
Chris
excited.
Flawless.
Girl, stop.
So I came on Saturday to
Yeah.
see your 20-year show, which was insane.
And you dipped out.
I did.
You didn't even come to say hi after
I didn't. I was like, you're going to be far too busy.
Oh, stop.
No, but honestly, what an amazing show. And congratulations on 20 years with Flawless.
Oh, she was going to say diversity.
We're going to talk about that.
Damn.
20 years with Flawless.
Gee, she started off on the wrong foot already.
Didn't I? But 25 years in the game.
But they were actually there that night, to be fair.
Are they still around?
Yeah, they came to watch.
Oh,
that
did
night.
they?
Yeah, diversity boys were there.
Oh, wow. So 25 years in your game.
Yeah.
That is immense. Big.
Been knocking around for a bit.
Yeah. Tell me about the journey. How did it all start?
How do I even begin? Right. So top and bottom. I was actually mainly into sports. Like football and athletics was my main thing. Like I really, really enjoyed playing football. I loved athletics. And I thought I was going to be an athlete. I wanted to be an athlete, but circumstances changed. It's like, falling out or, with coach, or even just having lack of confidence was one of the main things as well. Like being in an all boys school, very, very competitive as well, like in that sense. And if you didn't really, really have that confidence, or even had like the support as well, like coming from my background, didn't really have the financial support from my parents because we couldn't afford to do certain things, So, it more or less segued into something else. And I was like heavily into music as well. Like in school, I studied music, especially for my GCSEs as well, and I was passionate about it. So our teacher, it all actually started from my music teacher. Her name was Miss Whalen, which is to this day like always gonna remember her because she was like the one that helped shape. In fact, she helped shape the future of Flawless because two of us were in the same school. We went to the same school, myself and Marlon. Marlon was the guy that started Flawless. So we were in the same music class. And again, saying like I went to an all-boys school, it was very easy to get into trouble. Went to an
all-girls school. It must be something about single-sex schools.
Definitely. Like, first and foremost, my mum was not having it. There was like going to a mixed school, it was out of the question. Like, it was non-negotiable. You're going to an all-boys school. All-boys Catholic school at that.
Oh, mum was all-girls church of England school. My mum was exactly the same.
This is where you're going. That's that. No protest. I didn't even want to protest in case I got my ass whooped. So, so Miss Whalen, both of us were in the same class during break times as well. Like, she used to allow us to actually come into the music room and just hang out, vibe, whether we wanted to do music homework or just play the instruments or just stay out of trouble. So that's more or less where it started from. And one day I saw Marlon, he was just playing some music. He started freestyling. And I was like, I didn't know he was into dance kind of thing. So I was just there kind of like watching in the background and like, kind of like cheering on, whatnot. And that became a thing. And it wasn't until like one day I decided to get involved because both of us, we loved Michael Jackson and we had a thing for like Breaking the Movie, which is like this old school breakdance film with Jean-Claude Van Damme and all that stuff. But if anyone that's ever seen the movie, search it out. It's called Breaking. So we started kind of like exchanging, freestyling, and from there, like our relationship grew even more so through that. We had that connection, we bonded. And then from there, we did our very, very first talent show in our school. And yeah, looking back, actually horrendous. But it was actually the Destiny's Child, Bills. Like, I will never forget that day. The song choice, I don't even know like where the song choice came from. I can't remember, but it was to that song. That was our first ever talent show together to that song. And then like from then, we started doing more talent shows throughout North London and stuff. And there was one where we met Kenrick Sandy, who's an MBE, he's a creative, as choreographer, just an absolute like a monster in a game. and he was one of the main choreographers actually for the Olympics 2012 Olympics. So all of the choreography and the movement that you saw in the 2012 Olympics, the majority was all Kenrick. So he had this company called Boy Blue. He asked us to come down. We just kind of like, okay, cool. Just two North Londoners going down to East London, traveling out, which was a good thing as well, because it also got us out of North London, because where we grew up, yeah, you know, it's very, very easy for young black men to get caught up in certain things as well. And I didn't necessarily want to be a product of my environment, because it was either there or there. Yeah. There was no in between. So we chose the influence that was going to be beneficial for us, really. So getting out of North London and going to East was actually a really, really good thing. So that's where like the journey kind of like started to pick up even more so. Having been involved with Boy Blue and stuff, and then fast forward, we started, you know, getting into auditions into the industry itself. And back then, like, it was so refreshing, because seeing like people who are our peers now and become close friends of ours, black men on TV dancing for certain artists, there was that representation as well. So looking at it, we were like, we want to do that. Like, now that we can see like there is a segue, there's an opportunity, it can be done. So just going into like, you know, auditions, finding our feet, trying to work out what's going on in this industry or whatnot. And obviously at the same time in college, studying dance and performing arts as well. So there was a lot to try and figure out. It was basically like a full test run of life.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what was going on, what we wanted to do, but we knew that we were passionate about this and we wanted to like give it a go and just make this work. And certain things started coming of it. And throughout that process as well, Marlon started Flawless. And I think back then we were like 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So at this time, we kind of like, you know, getting ourselves into the industry, working with certain artists and booking jobs, which was good at an early age as well. From like 17, we booked, I think it was like Mobo's Awards back then. Like, just gate crashing auditions, to be honest. And we were fearless as well. Like, so back then, like, being a masculine dancer, especially a black masculine dancer, was a kind of like an advantage as well. If you were versatile, worked in your favor, always going to be a good thing. So yeah, we just kind of like utilized our skill sets. There's that fearlessness as well, especially when young, hungry, you're up against dancers that are older than you, that are already in it. So for me, like, my competitive side from sports came in. Like, whenever I came into an audition, I was like, well, if you're going to get this job, I'm not going to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm not going to book it, I'm sure they're going to like make them recognize me, or at least like, who's that guy over there? So that kind of like competitive has always been in me. And I don't think it ever left me to a degree, because whenever I entered a casting or audition space, my thought was, even if I don't get booked, I'm going to make an impression.
Going to be remembered.
Yeah. And even if I don't get booked, I'm not going to make it easy for you. The person that's standing next to me, you're going to work for this. So in a sense, I kind of like thrived on it a little bit. So maybe it was an ego thing. But it is what it is, really. I own it.
Yeah.
You got to have a bit of an ego.
Yeah.
In the industry, but at the same time, you got to check it. Still be grounded and humble and stuff. And if you don't book it, my thing is, well, all right, cool. It is what it is. Move on to the next one. But there were moments where I was gutted, especially if I really, really wanted a job, which was like when one will never leave me. I've never said this out loud. Like, to this day, probably the first time I'm voicing this was like when Victoria Beckham, like, she came out with a solo career and solo track and stuff, and there was this big audition for it, and we all went for it, and the majority of people that I knew booked it, and I didn't. That really, really, that hurt. that one hurt, especially when you've seen one of our best mates and you've seen Kenrick, seen other guys that I'm close friends as well. Like, I got to the last rounds and I was thinking, okay, yeah, I'm locked in. And I didn't get booked for the job. I was so upset. I was so upset. And I didn't want to feel like that again. So anytime I was in an audition space, I made sure I worked for it. So like any of the big jobs that I've done, or any of the big artists that I've worked with or gotten booked for, I know I worked for it and I know I earned it because no one can tell me that I didn't. Because I fought off every single person that was around me, like especially hundreds of guys, to get that job. So it made it more bittersweet. So yeah, like that's not so short version of it.
And your big break, right, with Flawless, or probably when people recognised you mainstream was with X Factor. When
Britain's Got Talent.
Britain's Got Talent. Why am I saying X Factor? I've got messed it up today, aren't I?
That's too strong.
Edit that out. Britain's Got Talent. And you were, so correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. You were there with Diversity.
Yeah.
And it was when Susan Boyle was she actually the winner? She was, wasn't she?
No, Diversity was the winner.
Won.
But it was that same year.
But because she became super famous out of that too.
Yeah, she did.
But you and Diversity were in the same kind of end running, weren't you?
I think that was probably, looking back, the spiciest year because they had two dance groups from similar backgrounds. Well, not similar backgrounds, but doing same thing-ish. And then you've got Susan Boyle, who's just vocal powerhouse from an unknown place in Scotland. And then we had other talents in there, like Stavros Flatley in there as well, that we were up against, Julian Smith. So our year was like stacked with people with talent, and the media decided to make a thing of it and do the whole Diversity and Flawless thing, which was actually like a good thing because it brought more ratings to the show. And I don't think they've had as higher ratings as that year, like to this day, really.
And did you know Diversity before?
Yeah, we know.
You knew them before?
We know. Yeah, it's just our industry is small, everyone kind of like knows of people, and we've been in the same competition before. Like we won one year, and they came the second year that we weren't competing, but they won it as well. So we that's how we met. So of course, it was gonna be a thing. Which,
why do you think they won?
I mean, truthfully speaking, I think this is just my opinion anyway. It's easier to market them. And I could easily sit here and go and do the whole race thing. And not necessarily, I'm not the type of person, but like when you think about it, they also had the kids as well. The cute factor, they had the talent. They had an array of diverse dancers in their group. So I have to look at it from like, a marketing standpoint. Yeah, they're easy to market. Would I say they were better than us, like from a dance perspective back then? I would say no. Like, anyone can challenge me on it, but we can battle for it.
Round two.
I'm gonna speak my truth. That's just my opinion. Somebody could say, well, we thought they were better. Well, it's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But from a dance perspective, we knew our dancing was slightly different, because obviously they had more of a comedic side as well attached to their pieces, their performances and stuff, and we just stuck to entertainment show factor. We were about the dance. We were we're passionate about our craft as well. It's not like they weren't, but that was just our focus. We wanted to make sure we were doing our craft justice as well. So we didn't really want to go down the gimmick route as well. But I guess if we look at it, they were easier to market, and they had a likability factor as well. I think we were a lot more like subdued as a group. And one thing that I did learn from TV is, regardless, and this just goes with X Factor as well, or any other talent show, regardless how talented you are, you need to be likable. People need to buy into you. And it's just like in business as well. Like, you know, it's transferable. Most people buy into a person before they buy into a product.
100%, yeah.
You know, so once they've bought into that person, it makes it easier to accept what it is that they're selling. And just, it's no different with TV.
And I guess now it's even that actually people do buy into people they hate as well. It's kind of
there
like
is that
hateability. Actually, it's a strong emotional. It's to stir a strong emotion.
Yeah.
That causes that buying for some reason, because out of curiosity, like, I don't like this, but I need to find out a bit more.
It's just like combat sports.
Yeah.
Like, you could be a fan of a certain fighter until you're not.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, you want to see them lose. It's weird because society has this thing where they want to build you up and then want to knock you back down again. And I'll use like Floyd Mayweather, who's one of my favorite boxers of all time. Like, he's an incredible athlete, incredible boxer, but a lot of people will pay to watch his fight, but they pay to watch him lose, which is wild, but it's society, isn't it?
It is.
So yeah, you got to have like some kind of likability factor too, which is also like marketable.
Yeah.
And for the general public that don't know nothing about dance, they were like, oh, I really, really like them. Oh, they were so cute or whatever. Yeah, I'm buying to them. I would love to go and see them on tour or whatever. And just by hearing them speak or hearing us speak and whatnot, they sound like really, really lovely lads. I want to know more about them. I want to go see their show. I want to Google them. You know, those things, it comes into effect. And like I said, we were young, we're subdued, we're thrust into this talent realm of a TV show, and we're trying to maintain our authenticness without getting lost in it as well, which then may have come across like even standoffish as well, like, you know. So but we
so what does that mean? What did it mean for you guys? What was your authenticness, and how was that challenged?
It was challenged in a way that they were trying to paint a certain picture of us, and we didn't want to go down that road. Like, yes, we're a bunch of black boys from a certain background, but we don't want to be portrayed as just the young black boys coming from rough neighborhoods or whatnot, or coming from broken homes and all of that. It's not about all of that stuff. Yes, it may be true, but at the end of the day, like, we don't want that to be the focus. Because then you give them a bit of, like, you know, info, they're just going to run with that, and then all of a sudden your talent just gets sidetracked, and it no longer becomes about what you can do, what you can offer, what you bring to society, and more about like your struggles. So that was what we were trying to avoid, like just focus on the talent, which is naive of us at the same time, because essentially in order to
the story,
right?
Yeah.
And as much as we were fighting it, we came to realize, okay, maybe we were a little bit too ignorant or naive about, you know, that sense, that side of things, and just lean towards it, but try and control it. But you can't control it. That's one thing. The moment you go down that rabbit hole, you can't control it now. You can't control what the press say. You can't control what is said on the news and anything like that. And it becomes really, really problematic because, like I said, like, I'm naturally an introvert. I'm a private person, but then when you're thrust into this, like, this world, the cameras are on you. They want to know about you. They want to know about your family. And that's scary. That's very scary. One day you're just like a normal person. The next person, like the next day, like you're just like in front of TV. Everyone's like, you know, saying this about you. They're saying that about you. They want to know what school that you went to. They want to know what you eat. You know, like it's very, very scary. So like, I think one thing that all of us as a unit were very locked in on was just maintaining our authenticity and our integrity, and not like being judged or like looked at a certain way. We just wanted to focus on our abilities, our talent, and share it with the world, and what comes of it comes of it. But certain things were said, written, which had racial undertones, which obviously we knew was going to happen. But
what specifically?
Like, the I can't remember. I don't want to paraphrase, but I can't remember which paper said this. But it was the undertone of writing about us as young black boys from broken homes and rough neighborhoods, and making something of themselves along those lines. I was like, these cheeky mother, little things like that. Because I thought to myself, wait, hold on a minute. This isn't entirely accurate. Yes, we come from certain backgrounds. We come from, single parent households or whatever. But it's not to say that, we don't have more to offer than just that, or that's just our life.
Yeah.
Some of us had been in the dance industry. Worked with Beyonce, worked with Rihanna, toured with Madonna, like this, So we had like some achievements under our belts as solo artists before like coming to Flawless and making this thing work. So for me, it's just like, well, this is exactly what we were trying to stay away from, because you're just going to run.
And you just can't, can you? I remember in lockdown, because my main business is in the nightlife and hospitality space, it was shut down. So I got called in to teach in a private school, business studies and entrepreneurship. And so it was 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Because it was a private school, you could kind of have a bit more free reign around what you taught. So the head teacher was just like, I want you to bring in all your life experience.
Yeah.
So obviously I'd share with everyone like where I grew up, what I was doing now, There was this one girl, and she sat there and she just goes, wow, miss, you made it out the hood. Because I grew up in Hounslow, right? So she knew that I'd grown up in Hounslow, and then she'd seen me, whatever pictures she'd painted of me in that moment and everything I'd done, that was a reflection piece. And I had exactly the same reaction. I went on and I was in hysterics. I was absolutely laughing. But I thought, there is something impactful in that. If they can see, if somebody who's younger can see someone that they can relate to, even though they've used a sob story or they've framed it as this, whatever frame they need to understand the world in, if that can impact somebody to say, actually, I can do it, or I can, that can be something positive that I can be a part of. And I really want to talk about the way that you guys do that in Flawless and that generational impact. I guess that's the one good thing about the media, isn't it?
Yeah.
That someone may read that and go, okay, there's now relatability, there's now belief. Yeah. And is that something you've seen over time as people have focused on your story?
Yeah. And at first we were fighting against it. And it wasn't until we kind of like realized that, well, actually there is a positive to this. There is a bunch of us's out there, younger versions that could actually look at him like, you know what, like they come from similar backgrounds as me and look what they're doing. They're making strides, they're changing the game, or they're changing perceptions. That's why, like, when we came out, and we came out in suits, we wanted to, one of the points that we wanted to prove is, street dance is not just all about tracksuits, hoodies, and caps. Like, we wanted to portray the distinguished English gentleman look to it as well, and add a twist to it, and not necessarily come out in something generic that you would see like, oh, okay, street dancer. Oh, there are a bunch of street dancers. When we came out, like, people didn't know what we were going to be doing because we were in suits.
Yeah.
So then when we started moving, like, oh, didn't see that coming. So that in itself, kind of like, we wanted to, like, break some stereotypes as well, where street dance is concerned, and add some respect to it. And of course, when it comes to young black guys, break the stereotype with that as well. Like, it's not just about, the hoodies and the caps, etc. You can, deliver something memorable in an authentic way, which is unique. So we did start to lean into certain things that were being said or portrayed, because then at the end of the day, it's like, well, there are people out there that may look at it and see it from a positive. Oh, look what they're doing! Like, that's really inspiring. And I think we leaned into it more and made a thing of it. Hence why Marlon came out with the phrase "chase the dream, not the competition." And even to be honest, when Simon asked him that and he said it, we were like,
what he said.
Well played. Obviously, we didn't react to it, but like when we got off the stage, it was like, well played. That was quick. That was really good. You were waiting for that all your life, huh?
I love that. And you really did like shake things up when you did the Royal Ballet piece, and I guess for the for your industry as well as for how you guys have positioned yourself. How did that all come about? Was that your intent to do things like, let's say, provocatively, to do things differently, disruptively in your industry?
Yeah.
Or did it just happen?
Like, we've always wanted to, like, I think collaboration is key for one. Like, always do something different, unique, something that can, like, push the boat a little bit and show that you can bring the two art forms together. So that actually came about. We did a performance, I think it was, like, at the Coliseum in Leicester Square, and E&B were there as well at the time. That's English National Ballet. They were there at the time performing as well, and I think who was it? Somebody from their higher ups were there, and it wasn't until we were doing like the whole schmoozing, mingling part of the event happened, and I think it was Marlon or somebody anyway threw an idea about like a collaboration of the two worlds, and they were like, it's not a bad idea. Okay, we're open to it. And from then conversations were had. We did this. Our first collaboration was for this like huge charity event called Peace One Day, and that was at the O2. That was our first ever collaboration performance. We went down to their studios, did our piece, they did their piece, and then we came together like this a unified thing, performed it, and like, it's safe to say, like, it was a really, really great performance. We all enjoyed it. Both parties was like came out feeling like, feeling invigorated, inspired, like just ecstatic. And then that's when the idea of the tour came about, and we sat down, we had conversations like, how do you guys feel about putting potential tour together? Everyone was on board. It was financed, it was funded, and we put the show together in just under 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, that and this is like, it was a full script, original show, original choreography, music was produced specifically for it, visuals, costumes, everything was designed specifically for the show, and in under 6 weeks, and we did all of this. And our first show, believe it or not, was the Hammersmith Apollo. We had the royal family there.
Wow.
And it was like, what the hell? Like, how did we end up here? A specific member of the royal family was there, but we can't mention his name. But it was just like an incredible opening night. 3,000 people in an auditorium. Like, it was just wild. There's a pinch myself moment for sure, because we never thought we'd be able to have a street dance group and then one of the most established ballet companies in the country, in fact in the world, collaborating, doing this production, this show, and this tour. And yeah, it was I think to this day it's probably one of my favorite tours.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what have been some of your favorite people you've toured with, places you've gone?
Okay, this one will always be one of my favorites for a couple of reasons. It was working with Rihanna, doing kind of like a a European promo tour when she had a Good Girl Gone Bad album released. One, it was sweet because everyone had to audition for it, and there was like God knows how many hundreds of guys across the country came for that. I gate crashed that, to be honest. I wasn't even invited. I heard about it. I gate crashed. I was like, it is what it is.
Getting it done.
Yeah. And got down to the last 6 dudes. And the rehearsal was straight after the audition. The moment we were there for like a couple of hours, and everyone was knackered, but going straight into a rehearsal after this if you booked it. So it was crazy. There was no waiting around. But that experience in itself was just like surreal, because it was actually the first time like it was step foot on a private jet. It was just like, how the hell? What just happened? Like, we got treated well as dancers, as artists. So
it was the whole of you that...
No, this was outside of Flawless. This was before we even did Britain's Got Talent. So that happened, you know, we were treated well. We treated with like so much respect. We paid really, really well. Just the general treatment, we felt like we were part of her team. Like, even when we did our first performance, which was in Monaco, which is wild, and that place is like a playground for the super rich, and it really humbles you. And that's one thing. But like, it's just the small things, you know, being felt like you were seen as because dancers, like, in the art, are probably one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working. I think ours is probably the hardest, simply because of the physical side, not just their mental side, but the physical side. So it's often taken for granted, and it's not always financially as compensated as singers or actors. You know, that's why I say we work the hardest, but we don't get paid as much as the other two.
Yeah.
You know, maybe because they have their unions and stuff, but that experience in itself was just like incredible. Just being, you know, seen, treated really, really well, paid well, taken to these like elaborate places, doing these incredible performances with this global superstar. And it was just like a memorable experience as a whole. Like, to this day, I would always like appreciate that, not just for that, but I worked to get that.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think that's one of my top 5 moments in the career so far, I guess.
And then with Flawless?
Okay, the pinch myself moment was probably when we opened the Paralympics for 2012. It was the moment where we were like performing, and there was like pyros going off and whatnot, and all the fancy stuff was happening. But then they wrote our name in the stadium. Like, this is at the Olympic Stadium, and you just saw like Flawless written around like the full stadium. And this was mid-performance, and we seen this like, holy crap, hey, yo. So when watching that back afterwards, like, obviously we were enjoying it, but then like watching it back afterwards, I'm like, hey, yo, this is wild. Like, they wrote our name in the stadium. You've got millions of people watching this at home, and then that's one of the highlights that they get to see in the opening ceremony, which is crazy. And I was like, yeah, we're never gonna forget this one. And then I guess the second one was like being a part of a #1 street dance movie, the first one that's ever been shot in the UK, and getting that to #1.
What was it called?
Both times, Street Dance 3D.
I always think
1 and 2.
What was that one that I used to watch when I was young? Save the Last Dance.
Oh no. Yeah, dancing's better than those. I'm just saying. But yeah, those were like some pinch myself memorable moments
Epic
and
moments.
we've shared, and I think the memories for us as a team, we're never going to forget those, because in 20 years time, that's something we can still sit around a table and talk about. Remember that time when we...
Yeah, big. Yeah. And so I know we were talking about this even before we started the podcast today, but the emotional load on being a performer, being an artist, being a dancer, like how much you're giving. I have so many friends that are actors and dancers and performers. And I love how deeply emotionally you can connect. But what's that like, giving in that space as a job constantly?
It's really rewarding, because especially when I go out and teach or do lectures and stuff, I say to a lot of the performers, your job is to make someone feel something. Because a lot of us in society, we go to watch shows, we go to the theatre, we go to concerts, we go to be entertained, and we also go to forget. We forget what's going on in our lives, whether it's a health issue, whether it's family issues, whether it's work issues, financial, whatever it is, but you go there to feel something. You want to escape. So I make a thing of like really stressing to them, it's your job to make them feel something and leave like they felt something. They've even felt inspired, they felt invigorated, emotional, sad, happy, whatever it is. You have to be able to tap into that in a way that you light them up, that they'll never forget that moment, or you capture their attention and you don't leave it until you leave that stage. So that in itself like involves a lot of giving. So that's being able to tap into that emotion that you want them to convey. So it can be draining for yourself because you're giving, all you're doing is giving. And sometimes you can be doing it to a crowd that is giving you nothing back. It's just crickets, absolute crickets. So then you're now having to work twice as hard to give and give and give until finally you crack them. That shell that they had is starting to like disintegrate. And now you penetrated in a way that, okay, cool. I have your attention. I have your emotion. I have your heart. Let's connect. So essentially what you're doing is connecting with them. Once you've connected with them, you've made them feel something. So that takes a lot of giving. Eventually, when you come off of that stage, the last thing you want to do is give more, because you're spent. Everything you had physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you've given. So that's why, like, I always say to people as well, be very, very mindful when it comes to with artists, for example, singers or actors, whatever. When you go to watch them, they've given a lot. Most of the time, they have nothing left. So when you have people coming at them, can I have your autograph? Oh, can I have a picture? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Like they are absolutely tapped out. Like they are drained. So it's we have to be mindful of those things. We are human beings as well. They are human beings that you're interacting with. Yes, they may be famous, whatnot, but they still feel.
Excuse. Well, I didn't come and see you backstage.
But we also understand it's part of our job.
Yeah.
You know, the job's not done until like we leave the venue, the space or wherever. Because sometimes like you have to like take a moment. Like with me, like when the moment I come on stage, I have to take a moment. Stop sweating for one. And just like collect myself and whatever I'm feeling, just let it come out. And then I can start engaging with people. But people forget like the person that you saw on stage is not the same person that you can see after the show, because it's an altered ego. You know, it's a different version of me. It just so happens the one that you see now is kind of like the more subdued, authentic, chilled version. And that goes for like most performers, really. Some people are just more extroverted and they're just like, that's just them 24/7. Even then, it's like at some point you gotta.
And how do you deal with the ups and downs of being in the industry too? Because it's, I guess sometimes what has that been like? Has it been up and down for you, or has it just been like you've always had tons of work?
Yeah. Like, especially when you're starting off, it's a lot. You have to be mentally strong. Like, you have to be resilient, because we're not in the entertainment industry. We're in the industry of being judged. So you have to be okay with being judged. And that's judged on your looks, judged on your talent, judged on everything you can think of. The most micro element of yourself is going to be dissected. Before you even say anything or even do anything, they're looking at what you look like. So image is crucial. We're in an image-based industry, so you have to be okay with that. And if you're not, you're in the wrong business. Same with fashion.
Yeah. Same with my industry, nightlife,
right?
Hospitality, anything that's people facing.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with everything else that comes with it. And unfortunately, the negative is always kind of like outweighing, but the moment you break through, then you just like tunnel visioned. So there has been a lot of like knockbacks, so many no's. But then you just kind of like, you have to remind yourself why you're doing it. Do you love it enough? That's the first question I always like pose to people. Do you love it enough to go through all of that turmoil? Like, it's like any relationship. Do you love that person enough to go through all of this hardship and fight through it and make it work? It's the same with the entertainment industry. Do you love it enough to like to go through all this heartache or this hardship, this judgment, persecution, whatever it is? Even more so now, especially in our social media era, you are being judged left, right. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's an expert. Everyone's got something to say. So you gotta really, really like take it with a pinch of salt, and sometimes you take a big fat L and keep it pushing.
And you do a lot of this now, don't you? Workshops and judging competitions. And how has your life evolved? Do you still do loads on stage or not as much?
Stage wise, no. But I'm more heavily.
They killed you.
Yeah, oh, listen, I'm still feeling the aftermath. It's different on this side of the pond, I tell you. Man, I got humbled. I thought I was fitting to like, damn. I'm really, really big on like the educational side of our industry. I don't just mean like from the talent side, but I mean getting performers to really, really tap into not just their dance side, but the business side of the business. You know the things that we didn't know, that we know now. I always think, oh man, I wish we knew it back then. But I'm in a position now where I can change that. I can influence certain things in certain way, influence certain performers. Like I'm connecting with colleges now where I can go in and do workshops and do lectures about the business and how to better prepare yourself for the industry when you go out, about creating a structure, about not just like little things where performers don't even know how to construct an invoice or register themselves self-employed or register a limited company on a company's house, and then some financial literacy moments, you know, just connecting them with the right people that can provide them with financial advice, and how they can better, you know, construct their company or their business or them as sole traders in a way that will benefit them financially, and also how to create their own economy coming out of college. You know, a lot of things like that is not taught in colleges, just like financial literacy isn't really taught in schools. That a lot of us have been taught to become employees, but if you don't have an employee mindset, you're more of an entrepreneur, or you have an employer mindset, you're going to be completely different to other people, and some will see you as a rebel, which is a good thing because the world is built of rebels. When you think about it, like technology that we have today was based on people thinking outside the box. You know, and they rebelled against what the status quo is. So in saying that, like, that's exactly the side that I'm leaning towards, trying to affect some form of positive change for performers to better equip themselves. Because one thing that COVID taught us is how vulnerable our industry is.
And unprotected and unsupported, right?
That, to be honest, it's the same with most industries, if not all. There's no such thing as job security.
No. But more so with freelance. And
right.
I think that's a big thing of what we provide workers to. They're freelancers.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that will come and get extra work with us are dancers, actresses, models, students, people filling in the gap. And we really learnt that for them.
Yeah.
You know, how it became something we massively put focus in after COVID. How do we teach people how to deal with the ups and downs, the good nights, the bad nights, when there's tons of work, when there's not? How do you not get too happy with your money? Save, you know, where do you save? All that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that.
It's even more important now. Like I said, like, it showed us that we are very vulnerable. It showed us that we need to maximize when we have opportunities, and reinvest in areas that can, you know, have some form of security for us. I say that now because luckily before COVID, I had transitioned as a performer anyway. So just as well, I wasn't just like focusing on just performing or whatever. I think a couple of years in 2017, that's when I decided like I wanted to start up a kids talent agency.
Yeah.
And that's when, you know, my business partner and I would just, we got together. She actually used to be my agent. Right. So I couldn't have thought of anyone better to start with, because she was one person I trusted implicitly. Like, she's always had my back, and I thought, well, we share the same core values and morals and share the same vision. We're passionate about industry, so let's get this rolling. And we did that. So I had already been transitioning. It's just a case of making sure that I'm learning, I'm growing, and I'm finding ways to kind of like shift things, even if it's a small like drop of influence that's starting.
Yeah.
You know, our industry is very set in their ways, and I think I just want to disrupt it.
Yeah.
Absolutely disrupt it. Just
what disruptions do you want to see?
I want them to start like teaching performers how to create their own economy and not wait for people to just call them for a job. It's like, okay, those quiet periods that you don't have a job, or you're not on a shoot, or you're not on tour, what are you doing in between?
Right.
So it's challenging them. It's like, okay, cool. What other skill sets do you have that you can implement, or that you can harness and utilize to your advantage? You know, are you great at teaching? Are you great at teaching kids? Are you great at teaching adults? Okay, so what is it that you can teach? There's a whole load of teachers out there. But what is your USP when it comes to teaching? Because essentially, everyone can do the same thing. What makes you different to the rest? And somebody asked me that. I was like, what do you teach? I was like, what do you mean? Be specific with your question. It's like, you know, what is it that you get? It's like, well, people don't ask me to come and teach choreography. They ask me to come and provide results. For me, if you're hiring me to come and teach your students, you're getting results. It's not just about the 5, 6, 7, 8. It's not just about the giving them a history of performance, or this, that, and a better way of moving or whatever. It's everything is encompassing. When you have me in, I'm getting results from your students because I know how to get results from students, because I've been there in their shoes, and I've kind of tried and tested what worked and what didn't work, and also see it from their perspective. If I was in their shoes, how would I be able to receive what he's saying to me? or what he's showing me or what he's sharing. So it's like an oversight completely, but you have to tap in and make sure like you never forget how to look at things from a student's perspective. And that is like really, really important. Like you go down to their level. When I was their age, how did I compute? How did I take information? Okay.
And I love what I've witnessed what you said in, even when you started your journey, you just go knock on doors.
Yeah.
You know, you just show up there uninvited. A lot of your stuff is at the Rihanna thing. You weren't even supposed to be there. Like how I can attest to that too.
Yeah.
It's like, how am I still in my game 16 years on? I hustled hard.
You have to.
I knocked on 1,000,001 doors and I still would. You know, every new country we go and launch in, like, I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm in people's faces. It's tried and tested methodology, right?
Yeah.
And I know when I watched your show on Saturday, I loved the ethos and really connected with the way that you guys expressed your grounded sense of community. So you had this generational thing, like your three generations, right? Amazing. All on stage, all doing different parts, all epic. And you had this whole part where you talked about, you know, coming off flying, coming off the digital and actually getting real with people, getting connected on a human level with people. And I guess your industry's big for that. Mine is massive for that. Like, I'm a massive advocate of it. Like, put the phone away and actually get real. What have you seen and how do you do that for us? And how have you seen that impact the younger generations, this Gen Z, Gen Alpha?
I can't keep up myself. I think it's just, I'm not a parent, but I'm around children a lot. In a sense where wherever I teach, whether it's colleges or smaller schools or whatever, I speak to them. I like really I talk to them, not just from a teacher perspective. Like, how are you? Like, how are you feeling? Like, how's the journey been for you so far? Like, what do you find difficult? And then it opens up. It allows them to open up to really think about their answers and start speaking and start talking. And then we find that connection, and then it just opens up to their hobbies and the things that they like and dislike and stuff. And that all stems from just like asking like the most basic questions. And soon before you know it, they start opening up and speaking freely. So then that now creates a sense of like comfort. They're now comfortable with me. And also maybe to a degree, a certain level of trust as well. And that's kind of like where our community has built up, because we've gone to certain spaces and offered our time, and whether it be for free or maybe for finance or whatever, but at the same time, we always offer more than just like, you know, what we're being asked to do, because it's really, really important. Because essentially they're the next generation. Like when we're like old and frail, they're the ones that are flying a flag. So I don't believe in like teaching people just to be good performers. I believe in teaching them to be first and foremost good human beings, because the world is going to be yours, and you're going to be the one who's going to be looking after it. So at least be good to it, be good to each other. And then our community has always been about sharing. It's sharing about not just the space, but sharing our talents. It's an exchange. And we want like our students to feel like that is home away from home. And we want the parents to feel safe that where we've placed our kids, where we've placed our teenagers or our children or whatever, they are safe. They're being protected, they're being taught, they're being loved, they're being cared for, but also they're being nurtured. Their talent is being nurtured. So just providing all of that is really, really essential. I know it may sound like a cliche, but like I think maybe coming from where we've come from, because we didn't have that to a degree, we want to make sure we break that cycle and really pass that on and make them feel like this is home, regardless of where you go. When you come back, this is still home. Yeah, the door's always open. And so how do you, I'm going to dig into that more in a moment, but how do you balance that with
the fact you guys are a business and there's business acumen, and often people separate these two things, right? In the business and entrepreneurial world, either you're seen as a bit soft and you know you've got like this caring, it's a soft business here, and or you're like harsh and it's kind of like, let's call it more masculine, like girl, you don't care at all. It sounds like you've got a good mix, and that's the organisation that we profess to create in my business as well, where we're like, nah, like everyone's gonna be making good money, we're gonna be making good money, like we're growth orientated, but not at the expense of care. So how do you practically bring those two elements in as an entrepreneur and leader?
Well, the first thing is discipline. And I think I'm kind of like known as the disciplinarian because I just want to get stuff done. Like, stop messing around. Like, we haven't got time for that. Crack jokes later. So there is that balance. You know, Marlon's, he deals with, he's the nurturer and the carer and stuff. And I obviously do that to a degree, but at the same time, it's like, right, with younger generation, they have to have that. They have to have the balance. Yes, you want to be there, make them feel safe and comfortable, but you also got to make sure, all right, we're not friends right now. Like, cut the crap. Like, we're here to work. And it's also letting the parents who are ideally like the customers, they are the one that paying for it. They want to be able to make sure that they're seeing that what they're paying for, like, it's paying dividends. Like, you know, you can't just be all pally with everyone, because it just becomes like a community center of just people just coming to hang out. Nothing gets done, you know. And you also want them to take it seriously and respect what we've done, what we've built. Like, you know, it's taken a long time, a lot of hardship. There were days we didn't have studios. We were rehearsing in the park. Because back then we were 18, 19, and there were no studios available, or we couldn't afford to be in a studio. So we rehearsed in the park. So now that you guys have this privilege, don't take it for granted.
And it's a form of care, isn't it? I think the discipline is actually a form of care, and it's one we're super big on, where, you know, certain opportunities we have within our organisation, people have the ability to make a lot of money because it's sales based. So they are impeccable salespeople. But with that has got to come firm boundaries of, hey, because good salespeople are also smart people, and they can, you know, so that's the way that we express care too. It's saying, like, you know where you stand with us. There's a line, there's something we're creating here in the industry. There's a level of service, there's a level of, like, experience we want to be known for. And it has to come with the hard and fast lines too. It
has to. And also you want, like, brands to take you seriously as well, and not kind of like, it's like, just kind of like some knockoff community center thing that they're running over here. Because if we didn't run things like a business, we wouldn't have had the collaborations and like we've had with Boohoo, your McVitie's, your McDonald's, and all those like big massive brands, because we've had to run a tight ship, you know. Of course, there are going to be mistakes made along the way, massively. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Just got to learn from them, really.
Yeah.
I guess learn fast.
Yeah.
I think it was, who was it? I said, was it Bill Gates? If you're going to fail fast. Like, get it out of the way.
I love that. And so I know we were talking a bit about this before too, but what are some of the things that you'd say this next generation, when they open up to you and when you have these more heart-to-heart, real human conversations, what are some common struggles that Generation Z put before you?
Confidence. A lot of them lack confidence, and they have a lot of insecurities. But it is common in our industry. Because again, you're in the industry of being judged.
Yeah,
you're constant
24/7.
But it's more apparent now. We were fortunate when we were coming up. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have your TikToks. We didn't have your Snapchats or anything. The other thing was probably like back then it was like MySpace. But like, yeah, we didn't have all of that. So everything's under a microscope. So the moment somebody pulls out a camera and films something, it goes on the internet, on the internet forever. So when you read some comments that people write on some posts nowadays is just absolutely wild. Like, there are some horrible people in this world. Oh my God. And I thank my lucky stars that I didn't grow up in this era to see and handle all of this. Cause I'm like, oh, I don't know how I would have handled all of this, but I see how it's affecting a lot of them, because, it's bad enough being judged by industry, but being judged by people that you don't even know, that has nothing to do with your industry, in fact, can't even elevate you. They just have an opinion and just firing shots on the gram, or firing shots on TikTok or YouTube. I'm like, damn. I think it was probably Mike Tyson that said this, but like, internet has made people feel comfortable to say what they want without the repercussions of being punched in the face.
And without forethought, how much easier is it to write something and drop it, rather than have a real human conversation of letting that land with someone, having to hear what they say back, having a conversation? It's so easy just to write and drop.
Massively. Maybe some people don't really want to have a conversation. They just want to troll.
Express an
Like,
opinion,
they're just doing it for laugh and for likes or whatever. But, like I said, like, it's all about resilience, really. You just take it as it comes. Do you love it enough to be able to handle all of this stuff? The answer is yes. Keep stepping. If it's not, reevaluate whether this is something for you or not, because it's tough. I've, and it's been unfortunate. I don't want to like bring down like the mood or anything, but like, it's led to a lot of people in our industry taking their lives, or go down a destructive route of substance abuse or like alcohol abuse, and it happens. It's not spoken about.
From trolling and from that?
From everything, from like being rejected, from body dysmorphia to eating disorders. It's rife, it's chaos, but there are some incredibly rewarding parts of it. Like, so like most industries, there's always going to be the cons. But there are also a whole load of
But there are
pros.
specific downsides to any industry.
Yeah,
and I can understand why this would be yours. They're very similar to ours in terms of, I guess for us, it's a lot of young women. So you see that plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, that's a massive one.
It's so massive.
And I know we were talking a lot before about the dating world, and a lot of the young women in the office will process that piece of their life with us, and we've joked around it being the Wild West out there. Do young people come forward to you and like process this sort of stuff with you as well? And
I mean, I try to have boundaries, especially with young people. Like, that's not necessarily an appropriate conversation for me to be having with anyone, because I'm in a position where if I'm technically seen as in a leadership position,
your word is going to be,
I'm not engaging in that conversation. You're going to have to speak to somebody else about that. That's not for me to get into. But as in, for people in my age or my peers and stuff, it's challenging, even for myself as well. Like, being in this industry, it's kind of ruined dating for me a lot.
Explain how.
I've seen or experienced or heard of. There's nothing that shocks me. There's nothing that I can come across and be like, wow, really? Like,
anything goes.
Because, like, okay, in our industry, it's very, very easy to connect. You can be on tour and you end up connecting with somebody. You can be on a West End show, which is like a year's contract. You end up connecting with somebody. And a lot of people are probably in relationships, or they're already engaged, or they're already married, and all it takes is you spend a lot of time with people in itself. You start to build connections, you start to bond. There are similarities, and then next thing you know, things happen where they shouldn't be happening. And for me, mixing work, business and pleasure is a no-no.
Yeah.
That's one of my non-negotiables. Like, don't do it.
I'm with you.
Don't do it.
I'm with you. People said to me many times, how have you survived in the nightlife game as a 19-year-old woman?
Oof.
Like, that's when I started.
Girl.
I said, close your legs. That is how you survive in the nightlife industry.
Hey,
you do not mix business and pleasure, full stop, because it is also your reputation. Facts. It is also your reputation. So, and much like your industry, I can imagine, word spreads. It is a relationship-based game. People will know you for what you are.
It ruins relationships. Like, and it's I don't necessarily like dating people in my industry.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we may have a lot in common, but at the same time, a lot of performers don't have boundaries. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, like, you have to have boundaries. Mm-hmm. And it just gets a little bit too incestuous. Everyone's just, mixing with everyone. I'm like, I'm not in for this. Mm-hmm. I like just to sit back and have a private life, me and my person or whatever. We don't need to be engaged in all this messiness. And if there's one thing that I've noticed as well, it creates a lot of affairs as well. Mm. And it's people are gonna kill me for saying this, but like, yeah. I mean, I look at Strictly, for example. Yeah. When people like them, they've already got a partner and they go into it, and next thing you know, you hear of that celeb and their partner engaging in something. It's because when you're around somebody for so long, and it's not just about just talking. Your bodies are up next to each other. Because you have to tap into a certain emotion to be able to like create chemistry. And then that chemistry becomes organic. And next thing you know, like, you're looking at that person sideways, like, why do I feel this thing about this person? Yeah. It's just a case of like, it's what you do about it. If you act on it, that's on you. But yeah, it's I've seen too many instances or witnessed some things where even like, I've nearly been caught up in stuff. I'm like, oh no, this is not, I'm out. Yeah. To know better. Like, yeah, it's ruined dating for me. I can imagine. It's a wild west out here. Yeah, no, I mean, I can imagine. And I know a lot of actors and performers, and they'll say the same thing. Yeah. And also the conversations that have to be had when you're dating. So, there's a good actor friend, and I think back to, he was telling me certain conversations that he needs to have before getting into a relationship. Like, what would you do if I need to do a sex scene in a film? Is this a yes? Is this a no? These conversations are huge. Yeah, it's true. You got to have the, I've been in plays or performances where I've had to kiss a co-worker or my cast member, and I don't know what it's like from a receiving end. I couldn't tell you because I've never been in that. Of course, I've been with somebody who's been a dancer and they've danced for me. It's just like, that's just work. That's part of what we do. But I guess from an acting perspective, you now have to really get even more intimate and share a kiss or
you're filming that for how long, and you're away in
and to be honest, I don't know how I'd react to it. I can't say because I've never been in that situation. I know it's easy for someone to say, "Oh no, I'll be fine." It's like you've never been in that situation, so you can't really. But that's that example. That's hard. It's hard to be able to watch your partner engaging in that act, but they are acting, of course. They're acting, but it's not gonna make you feel any different. You're still human. Of course you're gonna feel something, whether it's rage, jealousy, or upset or whatever. But at the end of the day, you gotta remember this is one thing. You signed up for this. This is your person, and you gotta trust them enough to allow them to make the right decisions. If they don't, may have done you a favor.
Mm-hmm. But it is so. I've never really reflected on that piece in the industry, on how fluid and unboundaried it must be. What advice, if you were going to talk to yourself, when you were 18, 17, first starting out, around your dating piece, what would you do? What would you say?
I don't know. Open communication. I think open communication is probably the best way. Probably prepping them to be able to know, okay, this is what's happening, reassure. And then I guess the rest you can deal with, I guess. But you got to also be like emotionally mature and emotionally intelligent as well. Not just with yourself, but emotionally intelligent enough to recognize when that person is upset about something and how you can navigate around it and have that conversation to, I don't know, touch base, reassure, and say, hey, listen, this is just a thing for work or whatever. It's still me and you, you know. Or have a conversation where if they're not entirely okay with it, have that conversation before you actually accept the job. You know, those are the things where you can
bring someone in.
Yeah. Say, hey, listen, babe, I've been casted for this role. It requires this. How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Get an insight. You know, how do you feel about it? Talk, engage, share like thoughts and feelings, see where it goes. And some people decide, no, I don't do kissing scenes, I don't do sex scenes or whatever. So they'll tell the agent, if it involves this, I don't want to do this. Don't call me for this casting or this audition or this read through. I can't remember, there's a actor, it's a Hollywood actor that's done that. That's based on his faith. He refuses to do any kissing scenes, any sex scenes. And that's just his boundaries. These are his non-negotiables because I respect my wife, and this is the only person I'm going to be sharing those moments with. That's my wife. And I was like, wow, like that's really, really admirable. He's lost so many big roles over it, but that's a choice that he made, and he stuck by it, stood on business. And I was like, well, fair play to you, man. You didn't lose your soul for it over a paycheck, and I highly respected that. Not everyone's gonna do the same, but you know, those are things that you can highly do.
Yeah, you can consider.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a conversation with somebody that I was seeing like a while back, and you know, saw certain things that I've done in the past, like work-wise, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'll be able to handle that. And I was like, well, why not? And so let's talk about it.
Go there.
Yeah. Let's. What is it that made you feel this way? What is it that's triggering you and stuff? And it's like, well, you know, if you would have to do this with girls or like people that you're working with, I don't know how I'll be able to handle that. So, well, okay, this is interesting. Like, you know, tell me more about it. I want to know, what is it that made you feel triggered, or what is it that you would feel uncomfortable about that particular scenario, and at least allow me the opportunity to make a decision once a conversation's been had. Because if you said to me from before the job even came across, or I said yes to it, this is what you're not happy about, this is what you're not comfortable with, okay, we've had this discussion, all right, it's now up to me whether I decide to take the job or not. Because if I'm now taking your feelings into account.
And also having a deeper form of understanding of her. Because even if nothing changes, it was a learning point.
Right.
Even if you were like, look, this is my work and I'm going to do this, what you've done is allow an open dialogue to understand her and go, okay,
exactly.
I understand the things that could trigger you. So there'll be sensitivity around them, or there'll be, you know, that's any solid, firm relationship, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
I agree.
Yeah. So I guess the certain industries will call you to be like that. I know for myself, I very much own, I'm like, I'm in a male dominant industry, as most industries are, but often doing a lot of client-facing stuff.
Yeah.
Often there's alcohol about. Doesn't mean I drink and get drunk. It's often at night because it's the industry that we do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's stating. It's once you get to a certain point in your career as well, I think you're just like, this is the job. And I own that from the beginning because you've learned some of the challenges that have come up in your dating life. You're like, oh, that caused it. Oh, okay. Let's just bring that to the table now because that could be a common thing, right? But at the beginning, you kind of go in naively and you've got to learn it. Yeah.
Skip all of the important things and not have those like all important conversations. I think it's really, really important to have those uncomfortable conversations early. Yeah. Some people like to skirt around and just avoid them. I'm like, why? They're going to come up anyway. Mm-hmm. Like some people, you shouldn't talk about kids on the first date. You shouldn't talk about marriage on the first date. You shouldn't. Why?
See, I find two belief systems in my brain with this. One is sometimes you don't know. Mm-hmm. So that there's a part of life where life just lifes. Yeah. So you kind of go like, I would have had kids, but not with that one. Or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like so you're working somebody out. Yeah. Or you're working yourself out in relation to them. Mm-hmm. So part of, I think, those conversations do come as time comes up because they present themselves as the thing evolves. Mm-hmm. And I also go, if you're at a certain point in your life, i.e., 35, 40, and there's certain things that work and don't work for you or that you want or don't want, and it is the Wild West out there. Yeah. And all those things, it's unwise not to bring certain things up early. Yeah. So I bounce between the two things and make a blend of them both. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you're dating with intention, it's part of the elimination process because you want to see where the person's at, where they're at in life, where they're at in whatever, like emotionally, where they're at in terms of relationship. Do your core values align? Mm-hmm. Like, are you, are you in sync? Are you compatible? Mm-hmm. Because if you're not, at least then you know this from early. Then you can say, okay, well, you know what? All right, I know this is going to be a short-term thing because our core values don't necessarily align, and we understand this, we accept this, and it fizzles out. Cool. If it's something whereby you both are headstrong and okay, there's no point even engaging in anything because this is not for us, or you're both in sync in the sense where yes, these are the things that I look for and these are the things that I value and whatnot. Let's pursue something. Let's pursue this in the intent of building something positive, building something long term.
And would you say though, by doing that, so the downside of that is, would you say that you block off certain experiences? Because I think back to some of my life, whether it's dating or whatever, it's come about without the intent. Mm-hmm. And then I've gone, actually, I really needed that, or that was really good for me. Yeah. And I think sometimes there's an open-mindedness that allows you to experience another person, which then causes you love. And let me use a story about this. Right? So I had a friend who, she knew her husband cheated on her like multiple times, right? She was quite deeply, in her terms, spiritual, so she'd do these ayahuasca ceremonies, and every time ayahuasca told her, you can't let him go, you've got to stay. And we'd all be like, this is absolutely nuts. And what happened was her husband had actually had a child by somebody else, and she decided to keep the child. And she described to me this time when she was sat in the room with her husband, with the woman, and she held the baby, and she said to me, Sarah, it was the biggest experience of love that I have ever learned in my whole entire life. Wow. And I suddenly had this like wake up realization of why I had to accept this because of what love actually is. And it blew me away, and it always stuck with me. Yeah, they've got kids. Oh. But it always stuck with me because I was like, actually, for whatever, because there was so much other good stuff in the relationship. There was just this thing that had happened, multiple times. Big thing, right? Just this thing. It's a big thing. Yeah. But it taught her to love more deeply. It taught her the difference, the pain, the realness of love that she believed that she couldn't have received any other way. Long term, they're now not together. But in those moments, that's what she said she took away, and it just always blew me away.
So did that essentially give her the aha moment to even continue or just step away?
She continued.
Right.
It wasn't the moment of leaving. It was the moment of the deepest love that she felt for this child.
Right.
That she just was overwhelmed with it when she held this child. It was like, whoa.
That's interesting. It's very fascinating. I mean, I guess we all have like a come to Jesus moment in different forms and different fashions, or like whatever it may look like.
Yeah.
It's just a case of whether you're at a place to accept and receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all good and well having these blessings coming your way, but are you in a position to receive it?
Yeah. And also that when we can do so much of the I work, so I know like this whole data with intention thing, it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can listen to so many podcasts on it, you can read so much on it and everything. And it can be quite selfish, is the downside of it. Because I am this, I have this need, I like it like this. I like my emotions happen like this, and this is what you can do to meet me there.
Yeah.
What about that person is having a really, really, really hard day? They just need some time alone. You're pushing them because your need is, I need emotional connection like this. And this is what you stated. It's really, really important.
Oh, you preaching now, Sarah. You preaching now.
Right now. But they're a human being who's going through life experience, which changes every single day. Someday they can meet you in that need, and someday they can't.
Yeah.
And there's a pressure that this dating with intention and this like almost this inner work, I think, has created.
Yeah.
And it's not loving. It's not actually accepting that every day is different and having a softer approach.
Yeah.
And honestly, I put my hands up and I say, I've been there. Like, I've been the one going like, but I need because I've done my work.
Yeah.
And life has taught me. Calm down, girl.
It's so, it's so true. And sometimes, like, it's as much as some of these like podcasts like, out there, especially the dating ones, they're good. And there are some out there that are not necessarily that good, because they can influence your thought, and then you can bring that same thought into your relationship that was actually fine. You had no beef, and all of a sudden, because you heard something, it's like, oh, well, and you want to now bring beef to your household. Why? Like, every relationship is different. Like, just run your race. Like, if you and your partner are good, stay locked in and just do life how you see fit for both of you. There's no such thing as a conventional relationship, because everyone does something differently. Everyone loves differently. Everyone appreciates different things or whatever. And just like yourself, like, there are days where you can meet your partner at a different space. You're at 80% and they're at 20. That's why I do believe in that 100% rule, whether it's a rule or not. But like, I may be operating from a space of 100% when I leave my house. By the time I come home, I've only got 20% left. If my partner has more, she can, uplift me and add some to it, or vice versa. Like, it's not necessarily the case where you're always going to be operating at the same frequency. It's impossible. You're going out to the world and you're battling, you're going through things. Something may happen. You may even crash a car. Like, somebody, you get into something with somebody and that completely ruins your mood. And like, everything happens to everyone, like, in some way, shape or form. Like, that's going to adjust their day. And
it's being able to communicate that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my sister was always big on this. She said to me, Sarah, read the room. So my sister passed away last year, and she was always a little bit more subdued than me. And I would come in and I'd be like, well, let's go. And she'd be like, read the room. And it always, it sticks with me in these moments of when you're relating to another, just read the room. No, like, for a minute, just pause, see where they're at.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person just comes in and is like, everyone's side-eyeing you, like, Whose friend?
It became a role I played with her because it became a joke.
Whose
it was
sister
like
is this?
it became our like fun. It became a fun thing. But the sentiment of it has always stuck with me in relating to another. Exactly what you're saying. It's that read the room. But if it's over WhatsApp, or you need to have better communication. Right, someone needs to be able to communicate what room they're in, so that actually there's not a misread, and comes back down to what you said, right? Open communication.
It's honestly, it's so crazy how we tend to overlook how every small detail or issues that we have in life boils down to communication. Like a lot of the issues that we have with friends, with family, with work, boils down to communication. And not just like generic communication, because people receive things differently. Mm-hmm. Like we may have different communication styles. You may receive things in a certain way. I may receive things in a certain way. It's just kind of like acknowledging that and saying, okay, how can I get what I needed to get across to you that you're going to be able to understand from your language, and not to like mansplain or anything like that, but like we all have ways of receiving information. I could be somebody who's likes things just direct, just speak to me directly. Okay, that makes sense to me. Or you may be the type of person that is just like, okay, I have a lot going in my head, let me just get it out.
Yeah.
which is true, right? You know,
let me say the same things 4 ways in a 2-minute voice note. I say it 4 ways, it'll be the same thing, okay?
It's true. It's true with me. Like when somebody sends me like messages or WhatsApp, and they're just like sending like little. Just give me a paragraph. Yeah. Give me, if it has to be like a full-on dissertation, just give it to me. Like all of this little like messages, just, and I'm just seeing it's still going. So I'm like, bro, just lay it out. I don't want to keep having to come back to my phone. Let me just read it. And for me, that's my communication style. Sometimes like it works for me. It may not work for other people. But we all have different...
It takes time to learn that as well with another. Right? And timing. And, you know, if someone's stressed, like, some people just need to back away. I know if I've had conflict, I'm like, let's fix it now. And I need to talk about it now. Now.
Conflict resolution is interesting.
It's hilarious, isn't it? But you see these things play out when you're in a relationship. And then even when you know yourself, or you know that a certain style may be more challenging, it can still take time in that relationship to actually then accept it till it becomes the norm of the way that you communicate, and if it's so different to yours. But I think so many of us run away so early, or when we've done this work, or we feel like we know ourselves, it's then when you're actually in the relationship or in the place, the application of it in learning another is still when it actually starts. Because you can identify stuff in yourself, but then you actually need to do it in a dynamic.
That's just...
Yeah.
I couldn't say more. And it's I don't know if anyone has ever asked you what is your communication style when it comes to conflict resolution.
What are the options?
Are you an avoider, or are you the type of person that wants to, I can't remember the terminologies anyway, but are you the type of person to speak about there and then?
Go in. If something comes in, it's now.
Right.
And I will drop everything. That will be the priority right there and then. And I like emotion. So I like, give it to me. Tell me you hate me. If you need to hate me, I like that. I find that real. So let's let it all out. Then we move on very, very quickly.
So where is your process time?
In the moment.
But are you processing?
That's a very good question. I've got better at... Okay, so if it blows up straight away, no, you need a minute, because otherwise it's just pure raw emotion.
Yeah.
But I process very quickly. So I'm very much like, I'll give all the attention to that thing to fix it. Anything that bothers my heart has to be dealt with very, very quickly. I can't then easily drop into the mind. So it will consume time and space until it's dealt with.
Then the next question is, what is your delivery like?
I'm always very good at reading the other person. I personally prefer face-to-face delivery, presence time, looking at each other, with each other, being able to touch afterwards, really, really important.
Right.
But can easily do it written down, executed over like point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4.
Are you doing bullet points?
If that's how if that's how that person communicates,
Fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been in dynamics where that has been how like a more logically minded person has actually found that really, really helpful. I feel fine.
Yeah.
I feel so. I the delivery, because the resolution is so important to me. The delivery, I will use any method that I see that the other person responds to.
Fascinating. It brings me to my next question. Then, what are you like with accountability?
I love accountability. Accountability is very, very necessary in any relationship. Without it, it's very dangerous. Yeah.
But I mean, like, the two-way accountability as well, also.
Totally. Yeah, but being held to anything is very, very important. And I think that's where the expression of needs is very good, because then if you're having to repeat something a lot of the time and it's not landing, and it's not changed behaviour or changed action or a level of that, then there's only so long that you can keep doing that till you don't feel like it's a sustainable match. Say.
That's all. Like for me, like I don't always believe in people when they say sorry. Like what I mean by that is, if you keep saying sorry for the same thing, then you're not sorry because you keep doing it, you keep repeating it. So then, at what point do I believe that you are apologetic and you mean it sincerely? Because you just keep doing the same thing.
My mum taught me when I was really young, it's always stuck in my head, Sarah, sorry means you won't do it again. That was the definition of sorry. And
sorry means you will work hard at not repeating it.
Yeah.
Like really, really hard and not repeating it.
But she was like, point back means you won't do it again. There was no like, you're trying not to, or, you know, you'll work on a behaviour change. It was, you won't do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I believe in like giving grace.
Yeah.
Because we are human.
Of course.
We can make the same mistakes twice. But if it's something that's a repeated pattern, but even if you repeated the same mistake that you made in the first time, the second time, but there was a real effort to not try and do that, and it's kind of like a slip up kind of thing, then you can forgive that. You can afford the grace. But if it's something that is just like, just consistently doing, it's like, well, you're not learning from your mistakes or your bad habits. At some point, we can't have this conversation again.
And it's the awareness, though. I think the big thing that I always look for in any relationship, whether that's an employee that I have, a friend, a partner, whatever it is there an awareness that's come, like, at first you're cool to keep saying it, but eventually you expect that to actually have landed and come forward. If that doesn't happen over time, the communication for some reason isn't landing, or that person don't want to do that thing.
It's true. Like, it's just same principles that apply in relationships. Same principles apply in work. Like, you got to look at like, well, okay, if you were a boss of a company like yourself, and somebody who was working with you or working for you were operating in the way that you didn't like, and you made it known, and they continued doing the same thing, chances are they're not going to have a job.
Not going to have the job. You can't.
It's the same thing in a relationship. I know, like, people like, you shouldn't compare a relationship to a job, but like, well, a lot of it coincides.
Yeah.
Like, if you're accepting something in a relationship that you wouldn't accept in a work environment, well, the question is why?
Yeah.
You become a doormat.
Yeah.
And
fascinating.
do you respect yourself enough? Do you love yourself enough to say, listen, this has happened this amount of times, this has happened in this way that I have made known that I'm not happy with, I'm quite displeased with it, please don't do it again. If you continue to accept it, do you respect yourself enough? Do you love yourself enough to, like, step away from it?
So what would you do if it was a mismatch of something that kept on occurring? Okay, so let's create a fictitious scenario.
Right.
Let's say you're overwhelmed. Okay, so at that point in time, you're at an emotional load.
Yeah.
But the partner that you have really needs something emotionally in that time.
Right.
But let's say this keeps happening where you're like, I can't meet, like, shut down, can't meet you there. They're like, but I really need you.
Yeah.
Because that for them is a really high driver of connection.
Yeah.
Would you just say that's a myth? Like, if this kept on happening, what would you say there?
Well, like you said, it depends where I'm at on that day. I like to think that I'm self-aware enough, emotionally, like, aware enough to know where I'm at on the day. If I need a minute, I can take a minute. I can take 5 minutes. I can take an hour or whatever. I was like, all right, give me 5, give me 10, give me an hour or so. I just need XYZ. If you can meet me there, then you have all my attention. You can, wherever you need, I'm there. But I just need to go and fill my cup before I can pour into yours. If you're willing to accept that, then we're good. If you can't, it's a mismatch because you're now expecting me to pour from an empty cup. It doesn't make any sense. I can't be there.
You set an actual time.
Yeah.
You know yourself enough to say, this is what I need and this is when I can give.
Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful.
Because the way I see it is I need to be able to show up in the best way possible for you. And I always go back to like the airplane analogy, which for a long time I never understood, especially when I was younger. I was like, well, why would you put on your mask before putting it on a child? It's like, well, wouldn't you like think to like the child first? Until I understood the reason why they made you put on your oxygen mask before you put on somebody else's. There's a chance you're going to pass out before you get to somebody else. I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense. It's the same way like with life or relationships in general. You have to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And that's why, like, if I've been presented with this this question before, okay, who comes first, your partner or your child? And I was like, is this a rhetorical question, or do you mean like, no, like, who comes first, your partner or child? I'm like, well, neither. And that kind of like shook some people's minds a little bit. I'm like, well, let me explain. I said, well, I would need to put myself first because in order for my household, for my partner and my child, I don't have any children, but like if I did, in order for me to have a stable home, I would need to make sure that I'm right mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally in order for my partner would have everything that she needs emotionally, spiritually, physically, or whatever. And same goes for my child. I would need to make sure I'm taking care of myself so that my family get every part of me that they need. It's just like, how can I provide what they need if I don't have it to give? It doesn't make any sense. So I would prioritize my mental first and foremost, fortify my mind so I'm able to now tackle whatever issues that there is, like, that's going on, whether it's my child, my partner, or whatever. Like, how can you be able to offer advice? How can you be able to offer emotional support if there is nothing there? You're just empty. So that's my thought process on it. Other people may disagree where it should be your partner and then your child. It's like, yes, in theory. However, if there is nothing you have to offer, how can you potentially come to the rescue? It's like going into a burning building and you have no equipment to put out the fire.
Yeah.
Why are you running in there? You're just going to burn yourself. You know? So that's how I look at it anyway.
Powerful. Well, Chris, it has been amazing.
It's been a pleasure.
We definitely covered some ground.
A lot of ground.
Love it. Loved having you on.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me.